Hey, Steve H. here, and I'm in downtown Queens, New York for the Machines in Music Festival. This is a very cool festival and event because all of the synth manufacturers, specifically the eurorack synth manufacturers, are right here in this warehouse behind me. New York is like the home of synthesis. Thaddeus Cahill invented the synthesizer around the turn of the last century with his teleharmonium. The Columbia Princeton Electronic Music Studio was one of the first computer music studios in the world. And of course, Robert Moog, well, he invented the modular synthesizer right upstate simultaneously with Don Buchla, who was out on the West Coast. So I think we should go in and see what all the excitement's about. Come on.
An event like Machines in Music is really fascinating because just a few years ago, there were only a handful of companies making synthesizer modules, and now there may be hundreds. So I thought it would be great to talk to a few of them and see what was going on.
This is Jana with 4MS Company. We're here at Machines in Music 2016, and we're showing off our current product line. And we design and develop eurorack synthesizer modules that deal heavily with clocks and timing. And right now we have a dual looping delay, and as the newest product we're showing off with the newest firmware.
My name is Stephen Hensley. I'm with 2HP. 2HP is a set of modules that are all 2HP wide. That is the idea of the whole company. We try to make single-purpose modules that will account for anything you could possibly need when you need to fill that last little gap in your case.
My name is Andrew Morelli, and my company is called Steady State Bait. We produce a lot of different modules from oscillators, filters, modulation sources, and utility modules. One of our newest modules is the Gate Storm, which is a gate sequencer and clock generator. It offers a lot of flexibility as far as triggers and gates go in a modular system. We also have a new module coming out. It's called the Entity Bass Drum Synthesizer. It's a bass drum and bass line synth. It can do more than that, but it's mainly focused on producing and designing your own bass kicks and bass lines.
My name is Daren Ho, and I am one of the owners of Control, which is a synthesizer shop in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. We've been doing this for about 4.5 years, and we opened the shop really with a focus in eurorack modular synths. It was very difficult to actually have a place where you can try this stuff hands-on. So we decided to open up a store so customers can feel welcome to come in and try out all these musical instruments. We feel it's really important to get a hands-on feeling for this kind of thing because the way that modular synths work is you really need to use your fingers or some mechanical component to it, and it's not really just, you know, clicking on a mouse or keypad.
We in America, since we started the company 2 years ago, but for 1 year we are like whole team together in the same place, and it was pretty busy year actually for us. What are we trying to do? We are making modules and modular synthesizer systems so that they are musician or performer friendly. So big knobs do like major thing, and like all module layouts are reasonably made so that a musician can instantly like get familiar with the module.
I feel like Eurorack has gained in popularity over the years just due to the sheer openness of the format. I think there's a tremendous amount of possibility
when you have numerous manufacturers, designers, engineers going sort of through their own original thought processes to create new forms of synthesis, and maybe not thinking within a specific paradigm, but rather just the various approaches from sound generators to modifiers to controllers. I don't really think there's a format out there that provides the amount of breadth and possibility in synthesis, really.
Hi, I'm Paul Schreiber of Synthesis Technology here at Music to Machines. So I want to thanks for coming by. I started doing synthesizers in 1997 with the MOTM system. That was a 5U tall kit that people would solder themselves. And I sold that up until 2006 when I got tired of stuffing 1.8 million parts in a little plastic bag. So I really got out of synthesizers up until 5 years ago when Eurorack first started. And I thought, well, I'm kind of bored. I'll go back into doing something. But I didn't want to do anything that everybody else had. I wanted to do a unique oscillator. I happen to really like oscillators. So I came up with a module called the E350 Morphing Terrarium, and that's what started my journey on Eurorack.
Hi, I'm Dan of Snazzy FX, and I make eurorack modules. And I guess that my modules, I like to think that are a little different at times because I take influence from a lot of different areas that are not always considered normal in synthesis, or at least according to the regular subtractive model of synthesis. Areas such as chaos theory, feedback systems, and using modules to sort of play themselves. So, for example, my first module, the Dreamboat, is a dual chaotic attractor that you can use as a modulation source or also as a chaotic trigger source. All of my modules are meant to be used together for regenerative patching. You can also use them for completely regular stuff as well. And for example, the tidal wave, it can be used as a voice or as a complete audio processing module.
So I think what really excites a lot of people about modular synthesis and why it's been gaining so much popularity recently is that it's kind of like being able to play with Legos, but in a musical sense. Like stringing all of your chosen rack units together in your Eurorack system. You get to choose what oscillator, what filter, envelope, and then you get to choose all your CV routing and utilities. There's just an amazing way to really shape a completely new instrument. In fact, I think that the craziest thing about Eurorack is that it allows ordinary people like you and I to become instrument designers.
As I was walking up and down the aisles, looking at all the cool modules, I couldn't help but think about Don Buchla and Robert Moog. These two guys, independently, really created modern-day, voltage-controlled modular synthesis. So I was wondering just what kind of influence these pioneers of electronic music had on all these great instrument makers here at Machines and Music.
How did they influence me? By inventing this stuff. They definitely set the standard for what's expected in modular synth designs, and for me it was a great launching point. Like all their stuff is great, but as a designer, like I want to be like them and create my own designs. But they definitely influenced me, as I was learning electronics about how things were done, and with my knowledge in engineering, how I could do it my way. They're truly the pioneers that set the stage for how all of us are designing modules.
All right, so as far as how I got interested to begin with, I was a really big Wendy Carlos fan. I wasn't really into electronics. I was a chemistry major when I started out in college, but I really liked how it sounded. And so I was always interested in how do you make that sound? And so I had posters on my wall. I used to send Bob Moog fan mail. I actually have a collection of Bob Moog business cards. I talked to Serge, talked to Don Buchla, and I would get a deep appreciation of what they had to do with nothing to reference. In today's world, you have Google and Wikipedia. You have a flood of things to look at, but back then they had nothing to look at all. So that was very impressive to me at what they could do with absolutely nothing behind them.
I think that for most people who design synthesizers, it's very hard to approach things without having some, previous knowledge or even experience of Buchla or Moog. When I was in high school, I got a micro Moog at a yard sale for $20, and that was my first analog synthesizer. Everyone has encountered Moog products in the past. Buchla, on the other hand, for me, was more of a peripheral influence that I didn't even know had influenced things that I used, like sequencers, for example. And it wasn't until I got into, specifically into modular that I found out more about Don Buchla when I first started building modules. I think that, West Coast versus East Coast, they sort of set so much of the territory. I'm certainly more influenced by West Coast ideas.
As far as influences in eurorack, there's a lot of history that's sort of broken down in two modes of thought. You have West Coast synthesis and East Coast synthesis. I think what's interesting about the modern take on synthesis is that we're incorporating both philosophies to design. So there's linear synthesis, as you would have on a keyboard, and then there's non-linear synthesis, more West Coast, where you're able to have maybe a dual purpose module. At some points is control voltage, controlling at some points is audio. So Buchla, in a lot of ways, has influenced the duality of these, the functions in these modules. But also, I think the warmness, the timbre of filters and oscillators has been heavily influenced by Bob Moog also.
So the pioneers, Bob Moog, Don Buchla, I think without spending tons of time thinking about the exact things that influenced myself and my company, it's just clear that everybody in this room that made anything that's demonstrating any of the modules here was supremely influenced by those guys.
When I walked into this event, I really didn't know what to expect. And I must say, I wasn't disappointed at all. In fact, seeing all of these amazing instrument makers and all of their cool eurorack modules made me want to just get home, flip on my modular system, and make some really crazy music. This is Steve H., publisher at Nonlinear Educating, and I'll see you next time.